Well, hello to everybody here. It's Teresa Sanderson. Super excited to connect with you today on another episode of the Nurse Entrepreneur Spotlight. Today's guest is Quisha Umemba. And Quisha, I want to thank you for sharing some time with me today so that we can connect you with our viewers and they can learn about all the good things that you do. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm so excited to be here, and I could listen to you speak all day. I've told you this before. You missed your calling as a therapist. I just want to lay on the couch and tell you all about my troubles. But no, I'm excited to talk with you today. Thank you for having me.
I love that. Thank you. So, for our viewers, if you don't yet know Quisha, I would want you to know that she is the CEO and principal consultant of Umemba Health LLC, a public health education and consulting agency that helps public health organizations and healthcare systems educate their frontline workforce, empower their leadership, and expand their community presence to elevate the lives of the individuals and communities that they serve. Quisha is a registered nurse with a public health background and helps public health leaders, helping professionals, and emerging entrepreneurs monetize their skill set to level up their career or start a service-based business. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I just love it. Love it. So, Quisha, what I'd like to do is just very quickly kind of take our viewers through a little bit of, the kind of nursing work that you were doing before you stepped into the business world. What kind of nursing have you done and how long have you been in the field, that kind of thing?
Okay, let me go all the way back. So I've been a nurse for about 15 years. And like most nurses, I wanted to be a physician. I kind of, got attracted to the field when I was a candy striper at a local hospital in North Little Rock, Arkansas at the age of 16. And I thought, this is it. I don't know what kind of doctor I'm going to be, but I'm going to be a physician. And then life happens. I had a baby at 19 and got married at 20. And so I knew that probably wasn't the best thing for me to do at that time. So I decided to be a medical assistant, and I graduated valedictorian of my medical assisting certificate program. And one of my instructors, so instrumental, which is why I love being an instructor to this day, said, Quisha, you really have something. You don't need to just stop here. I think you should go ahead and go to nursing school. Wow. And so never had the traditional college experience, always worked one or two jobs, always went to school, always had my, my role as a wife and as a mother. I'm a mom of boys. And so I kind of stair-stepped my education. I did, 2 years to get my prerequisites, 2 years to get my associates, and another 2 years to get my bachelor's. And by the time I got my bachelor's, I thought, well, I'm not going to be on the floor forever. And I don't think I need a third nursing degree because I had the ADN and the BSN. And so I started looking and noticing that all of the doctors, really, that not all of the doctors, but quite a bit of the doctors had MD, MPH behind their name. And so I asked a friend of mine who's an endocrinologist, what is an MPH? She said it's a master's in public health. And I said, oh, really? I'm going to look into that. And I remember from our community health nursing class in my BSN, we did what's called a windshield assessment. And that's where you kind of drive around within a 2 or 5 mile vicinity and you notate everything that's really a public health priority. And at the time, I was living in a brand new subdivision, a lot of construction going on, no sidewalks, no bus stops and different things like that. And it was the first time I really thought, oh my goodness, public health really does, everything is centered around public health and our environment in which we live that really influences our health.
Yes.
And so at that time, I did a year in SICU because I thought real nurses work ICU. Hated it. I didn't hate it. I work. I hated. Hate is a very strong word. I disliked working with
there you go.
surgeons. I didn't like the seasoned nurses that like to eat their young, so to speak. And I didn't like what working in surgical ICU was making me become. I had to put on this really hard shell exterior. And I was mean. I was really mean after a year of nursing, and I didn't like that. And so I then transitioned to work in long-term rehabilitative care, did that for about 3.5 years. And then I got my bachelor's and said, well, it's time for me to move up. There was an opening in endocrinology clinic and I applied to be the clinic coordinator. And I hated endocrinology in nursing school. And I thought, I'll go and I'll deal with, growth tumors and hormones and all of those things. 80% of my patients had diabetes. It never even flew into me that 80% of my patients would have diabetes. So I immediately fell in love with diabetes, fell in love with health coaching, fell in love with working with the patient unit, well, the family unit is as opposed to just the patient. Fell in love with team-based care. And I think our model was very, very unique. And so then I became a certified diabetes care and education specialist. So by the time I went for my master's or was about to graduate, I said, okay, I need a job that fulfills me as a nurse, fulfills me as a public health practitioner, and also allows me to utilize my certification in diabetes education. And the first job I applied for was the chief nurse of Houston Health Department in the Office of Chronic Disease and Prevention, overseeing diabetes program, overseeing a colorectal cancer program, and all the initiatives within that. So that was about 8 years ago, and I have not been clinical since then. I always tell people I forget I'm a nurse sometimes, but nurses can work in so many, different capacities. And I refer to myself as the nurse that got bit by the public health bug. I absolutely love public health. I think that we need more nurses to get to be in the public health space. Besides just vaccinations and immunizations, there's so many different things that nurses can do in public health. And I think I've said a mouthful, so I'm going to let you ask me another question. And then
I just love it. And you hit on a couple of key points there that I just think are interesting about nursing, that the idea that real nursing is somehow emergency ICU or, rapid surgery or whatever. That's what a real nurse is. And
that's what I was told.
And I have to share with you.
Glorified.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no way I'm gonna go work in a nursing home. There's no way I'm gonna go. Real nurses save lives. We're trauma nurses.
Yeah, exactly.
And so a totally different experience once I got into it. Not that I couldn't do it, technically I could.
Exactly.
But I realized there was so much more impact that I didn't want people at that point. I wanted to prevent them from getting to that point. Right.
Exactly. And I share that because I think, for me personally, I've always been I shouldn't say great, but my sweet spot in nursing has always been med surg. I don't want a gunshot rolling in off the street. That's just not me. I like knowing, okay, I can lead you down the road, take you through to discharge. I'm a great home health nurse, love hospice.
Yes, so did I.
So those are my skill sets and my passions, but I always felt somewhat less than early on in my career, feeling like I'm just not cut out to be a real nurse.
Oh God, no.
Isn't it funny though?
It's a specialty in itself.
All of it is. And that is the beauty of nursing. And at this point in my career, I'm so comfortable. I mean, who cares, because we need all of us.
Yes.
We don't have the next nurse to hand off to.
Absolutely.
What a thing.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so tell me now, now that we've learned about your background as a nurse, what drew you, Quisha? It sounds like you really had, number one, an ideal position, working with your passion, for public health. So what drew you then to step into the entrepreneurial space and to maybe say, maybe I can do more, or maybe I can do it differently and hang out my own shingle? What drew you to start thinking that way?
Great question. So a couple of things happened. One, I worked around the clock. And I would say easily 60 hours a week minimum, if not more than. And I did that for about 4 years before having a nervous breakdown and needing to take about 5 weeks off of work. My husband, my kids, my family, they all know I was connected to my work cell. I was connected to my laptop, and it was meetings all day, and then go home and cook dinner some nights, and then get everybody situated, and then sit at the kitchen table or sit at my desk and open the laptop and work. And that was my life for years. And honestly, Teresa, I loved it until it no longer loved me. I served it until it no longer served me.
So
that was one. Another thing is I was really making an impact with our programs and with the success and with the results, and just kind of the model that we have for our diabetes education program was something that was so unique But one, I didn't feel a lot of support.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I didn't feel a lot of support. Let's just leave it at there. Or recognition, right? Because it's not all paid sometimes, right? Sometimes
Right.
support and the recognition. And I
Mm-hmm.
really felt, well, if I can do this good of a job
Yeah.
for someone else, I can surely package up these services and do this on my own. And so I did start a business while employed. It bombed. I think I made $700 that year. I started
We
another.
have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, right? And I've had a couple of failed businesses
Mm-hmm.
before Umemba Health, which now is my baby and blooming and successful. But it was kind of those two things. One, I'm killing myself for something that's not even mine. And then I'm killing myself. And maybe, and I'm sure it wasn't meant to be unsupportive or, not supportive. And but at the level of which I was working, I just wanted more acknowledgement for the blood, sweat, tears, time, and lost sleep that I was putting in, which is no stranger. I'm sure many people in public health, many people in the healthcare field, have those feelings.
Right.
You give your all to the patients, you give your all to the clients, you give your all to the administration, to the system. But then what comes to you? I see, nurses post a lot, oh, we got a pizza party, right? And that was fine, but I just got to the point where I could do this for myself and pat myself on the back and sign my own damn paychecks. And that's where I came to be.
I love hearing that. And a couple of things, you mentioned earlier, you said nurses eat their young. And of course, I lead the movement. I don't know if you're aware. I lead
I know that.
Eat their young movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've said so many times, pizza parties and double time are not going to solve this problem.
Yeah.
It's not going to solve the problem of what's going on in nursing. So, wow. I think we also share a common ground in that you talk about working the 60-hour weeks for a period of years at a time. And when my husband and I owned our own hospice agency, I also experienced, at the end of about 10 years, I experienced major depression, true clinical depression that took me out of the workforce for 3 long years. 3 long years. And so I mentioned that for a couple of reasons, is because I think as nurses, whether we're, considered the real nurses in ICU or wherever we happen to land, the demands of the role are something that we've never been prepared for in the educational program, right? We were never prepared for what's the reality like of being called on your day off. And nurses are servants. And if you value a job well done, then you are going to stay until it's finished. And you are going to be available for that patient that calls at 10 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning or whenever, you know what I mean? So I think it's just the idea of balance. I long to see the nursing school curriculum step up and add these important pieces to nursing education. That's neither here nor there, but I just wanted to say that. Because you and I have been there and done that, and I think it's vitally important. So tell me now, how do you serve your clients? Quisha, what kind of services do you provide with Umemba Health? Tell us about
so
that.
we're a public health and education consultancy. And so let me give you a little background about Umemba Health. So I was working at the state at the time. I was a diabetes nurse consultant. And I was bored out of my mind. I don't know if anybody's worked for a state entity. I'm very high performing, fast paced individual. And I told my husband, I just got out of a partnership. I need to start another business. And at the time, I was tasked with helping diabetes education programs to incorporate a virtual component of their DSME programs. And this was pre-COVID, it's about 6 months before COVID. And I said, it cannot be that hard. Why are these organizations having such a hard time? So I told my husband, I'm going to start doing virtual diabetes education, actually virtual chronic disease education. And so I was figuring out, what's the compliant platform? What's the best curriculum to use? What are virtual, methods to teach adult learners? And so I'm doing all this research and I'm meeting with all these, establishing all these BAAs and developing my programs and workshops. And of course, nobody knows me, right? I'm not making any waves. I'm doing free webinars every month. And most of the time my dad is there or my mom or, it's just really slow in coming. And I told my husband, I said, and if I don't make any money in 6 months, something's got to give. Because at this point, it's a business, right? You start
Mm-hmm.
purchasing the stuff and the platforms and all that. So you expect to spend before you make any money. And I said, well, if something doesn't happen by 6 months, I'm going to have to pivot and do something else. And guess what happened? COVID.
Ah.
COVID happened, and I knew we actually were coming back from Nigeria. We were there on holiday. And I just revamped my entire business plan on the way home because I knew nobody would want to come to, at the time I was doing a diabetes prevention program. And sure enough,
Mm-hmm.
everybody was trying to buy meat and sanitizer and all this because it was, Armageddon.
Yep.
So
Yep.
nobody wanted to come to class. However, I had just been certified to teach community health workers. I was a CHW instructor.
Okay.
And I came back home and I called 5 colleagues, all women, and I said, do you have a presentation that you can put together, but tailor it toward community health workers? And they all have their different specialties. And they said, of course, absolutely. And 2 weeks later, we did a 5-day virtual summit for community health workers. And the
Oh my
theme was
God.
preparing CHWs to respond to COVID-19. And I told the ladies, I said, well, if we get 100 people, we'll be doing good because nobody knows me yet. We get
Yeah.
100 people, and we had almost 800 people register for the summit.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah. And so at
Wow.
that time, I kind of knew, okay, there's a need. Community health workers, even though it's been around for a while, a lot of states and a lot of people are still not really familiar with the profession and exactly what they do. And I
Mm-hmm.
started getting opportunities to do training. So I did a lot of my own internal training, but then organizations over the last couple of years would reach out for curriculum development. They would reach out for training, or they would reach out for CE assistance. And so it just developed into us being really known for our CHW training and for CHW-led program development. And so that is that meat and potatoes of our public health consultancy. Of course, we do other little things as well if organizations need things outside of that scope, but that's primarily how we serve. And I love it every day, every single day that
Awesome.
I get up. I use my critical thinking skills that I learned as a nurse. I use all of my program management and leadership skills that I learned when I was serving in the health departments. And it's scary every
Mm-hmm.
day. I mentioned before we got started, I'm about to hire my first FTE. And if I think about it too long, I go into a panic attack because it's my baby that I'm
I love
entrusting
it.
somebody with.
Yeah.
But it's exhilarating and it's my own, and I answer to no one. And the best thing is the interventions that we provide, the services we provide, are not held up by red tape and bureaucracy and all kinds of things that happen when you work in a public health organization or you work in a healthcare organization. And that was probably the third, I forgot to mention that earlier, that was probably the third reason why I needed, as a nurse, we want to help, we want to fix,
Yes.
we want to heal. And when you have an intervention, you have a program or a service that can do that, and it can help this community. But it's 3 to 6 months later down the line because it had to go through all these layers of approval, and legal had to review all of the partnerships. It's just too much. And
Right.
so I get to do this every day without having all of that. And I absolutely love it.
That is just fantastic. And I think, that is one of the beautiful things. I think the best and beautiful things that nurse entrepreneurs can do is really cut through the red tape. I mean, corporate world is really great for some things, but I think we all know that one of the biggest drawbacks is how slow the wheels can turn.
In corporate, so I come from a government background.
Yeah.
And I will say corporate, which I've worked there as well, is better. Government is a different
painfully slow. Yeah.
It's just the nature of the business. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I love. And absolutely. You're preaching to the choir here, and I'm absolutely loving it. So tell me, we've heard about where you were as a nurse. We've learned now more about how you are serving your clients in the public health arena through Umemba Health. tell me, Quisha, you know, there are so many nurses who may be working at the bedside today, and they want so much more. You've been there, I've been there. They might be feeling like, I'd love to do something else, but I don't know how to do anything else. You know, my son's got an event coming up and I'm probably going to have to miss it. My vacation may not be approved, you know, when I want to take it. I have something I want to do, for myself, or God forbid, I'm feeling burnout and would love to have a mental health day and I can't get it, you know. What would you tell those aspiring nurse entrepreneurs? What is the one piece of advice that you would say to somebody in that position? What would you want them to know?
It's the one thing that I always tell career professionals or even students, because I mentor both of those, is find something that you love to do so much that you would do it for free, and then put a price on. Because that's what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I love to teach. I love to lead. I love to mentor. I love developing programs. I've just been able to package it, to market it. I found my ideal client and I've put a price on it, and a price that, you know, I can live on comfortably and sustain my business and now bring on other people. Find something that you love to do so much that you would do it for free, but then figure out a way to charge for it.
I love that. I think it's so important, because when you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work at all.
And it's so hard to charge. It's so I'm telling you, if it comes easy to you because you love it, when I'm working with my clients, they struggle to charge. But I've been working at the church for years doing this. But I've been volunteering my time for years doing that. And that's great, because you can get your business to a point where you can continue volunteering your time.
Right.
And, you know, working for, you know, X organization, doing those things. But at the end of the day, if you want to be an entrepreneur, a nurse entrepreneur, you have to separate this from this.
Exactly. And people are going to learn it somewhere. They're going to get that skill somewhere, and they're going to pay for it somewhere. So
absolutely.
And so much of that is just owning our own value, owning and accepting our own beautiful value, and the value of just experience. I think that's often a sticking point on pricing, is just how can I charge for this? You know, it's just something I figured out.
Yeah.
But you figured it out. Take credit for that. Other people are looking to figure out what you've already figured out. And I think
and they'll come to it just like me, you know.
Exactly.
Just like I have.
Yeah. Exactly. Love that. So, Quisha, I want to thank you for sharing so much goodness with us today. This has been so much fun. Last thing I would like to do is give you a few minutes just to share with our audience how they can connect with you, any special promotions or anything going on with your business that you want them to be aware of, any opportunities to connect or work with you in any capacity. Feel free to have the stage.
Thank you so much. Well, if you are a nurse working in a public health or healthcare system and you are needing assistance, or, you know, your organization needs assistance in implementing community health programs, please reach out to umembahealth.com. I'd love to connect with you to see how we can help your organization to reach more people in the community to save and improve lives. So that's first and foremost. That's public. That's Umemba Health, my baby. Secondly, if you are a nurse and you're interested in knowing about the possibilities in public health consulting, I want you to reach out to my personal brand, QuishaUmemba.com. It's actually Quisha Umemba Consulting. That's where I teach you, or I talk to you about how to become a public health nurse, and not the traditional public health nurse that you see if you were to apply for a job in a health department per se. How to be a consultant as a public health nurse, where you can work with, you know, major public health organizations with your innovative solutions. And you can find out more information, like I said, by going to the website, QuishaUmemba.com. I also have a course, Possibilities in Public Health Consulting, that you can enroll in today to start learning immediately. You can, of course, always schedule a discovery session with me as well. And I think all that will be in the show notes, correct?
It will be. It will be. All right. Well, again, Quisha, it's just been a joy and a privilege to have you join us today. I want to thank you for sharing some valuable time with us. And for everybody else that's here, please, you know, connect with Quisha if you feel like, her programs are something of interest that you'd like to learn more about. Connect with her. She is an expert in the public health space. So again, I just want to thank you, Quisha, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I
You are
appreciate
you are so welcome. And to all of our viewers out there, thank you for joining us today. And I will see you on the next episode of the Nurse Entrepreneur Spotlight. Bye for now.